The problem with Kieran is that I really don't have a problem with Kieran and his story. I have a problem with how it's told. Look, I know the Pokemon fandom has made it quite clear that we like our jerk rivals over the nice ones, barring a few exceptions. So we do actually get a jerk rival, Carmine, who fills that role pretty well. She's a xenophobic jerk who doesn't like outsiders in Kiyotami. Meanwhile, Kieran fills the role of a friendly rival, and by the end of the story of Teal Mask, they swap roles. Carmine will open up to you after being a pretty much xenophobic jerk the entire time and quite obsessive with some nightmare phases that would give Alina and Lucamine some issues. While Kieran will start out a bit shy and awed by the player character, before becoming so obsessed with strength he decides to become the main antagonist of Indigo Disk. Also, we get a confirmed age range for him, between 13 and 19. I don't know whether it's the localization or if that's how the dialogue is meant to come off in both English and Japanese, but Carmine does imply Kieran has a crush on the player. The physical reaction says it all. I'm certainly putting on the shipping goggles. Strings of losses aside, there's a reason why Kieran grows colder towards the player character. It's the whole keeping secrets. I do like how when we learn Ogerpon's actual backstory that Kieran, the one who actually likes the ogre from the old legend, actually just is locked out of the loop by his own family. And then when the player character is questioned by Kieran over what that conversation was about, the player character flat out lies to him. This is where I take issue with how the story is told rather than the actual story premise and beats itself. Moments like these would hit much harder if Florian or Juliana had actual character traits. Sure, we get some levels of visual storytelling saying that these characters are actually friends, but there are other means of characterization, by omission. He does reveal to you that he was eavesdropping on that conversation, and he's pissed about it. But really, all Florian or Juliana does is just make some faces. This scene really could have benefited from the player character saying something, like, the player character could say, "Look, I can explain. I know the point is to have the player character be a blank slate so you can superimpose whatever characterization you want on them, but the game clearly wants us to interpret the scene in a definite way. And when he runs off after Ogerpon chooses you to be the trainer, well, we're not exactly having much of a reaction. We're not exactly emoting, not to mention the camera is turned away from our face so we can't exactly see the reaction, so it just comes off as the player character being dismissive of the whole deal. Not to mention, the player character's lack of expression towards other moments also makes the player character come off as dismissive. We just sort of stand there. I can sort of excuse Carmine sort of just dismissing his feelings because she's been doing that the entire DLC, but the player character, you're not exactly selling this as a decent friendship if you're not even going to show the player character's reaction. Okay, so let's start getting into some future speculation. We know that Indigo Disk is right after Kiyotami and this whole Teal Mask bit. We also know who the champion is going to be, and it's not going to be one of these Elite Four guys. I also heavily doubt it's going to be Carmine. They don't reveal the face of who the champion is, but let's be honest, it's Kieran. They made sure to tease that at the end of Teal Mask. He's also the only one in the key art not to get focused in the trailer, though, let's be honest, that's totally him as champion. My ultimate problem is that the player character not having any characterization does stymie some good character interactions and drama between the player and Kieran. Yes, Carmine needs to be taken down a peg since she is nothing but a jerk to her brother and is absolutely dismissive of all his feelings, but it's not like the player character is clean of all this since the player character did betray his trust and did actively aid Carmine in doing so. There's also how Kieran is obsessed with Ogerpon and how the player character is now Ogerpon's trainer. Don't worry, Kieran. At least when Pokemon Masters eventually adds you, you'll be Ogerpon's trainer eventually. But those are just my thoughts on the matter. Please consider liking, subscribing, and tipping the channel on Ko-fi.